Okay, welcome folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions Committee. It is Friday, February 6th. This is our 12 o'clock meeting. We're running a little late. We are working on House Bill 294 that deals with telecommunications and commissary as well as wages within our Department of Corrections. We have with us some University of Vermont folks who are involved in the Vermont Legislative Research Service to give us testimony in terms of telecommunication, prison telecommunications, and some policy changes. So welcome. And you do have some documents.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having us. For the record, my name is Kevin McGreal.
I'm Sky Whalen.
I'm Theodore.
And we are former student researchers for the UVM Vermont Legislative Research Service. Thank you so much for having us today. I know we're meeting during lunch hour. We're going to try to be really fast. Some of them it's
We took an early lunch.
early lunch. Y'all are nice and sated. All right. Oh, we're going to go deep into this stuff. Some of this material you guys have already covered in previous committee, so some of it will be a review, but some of the stuff I think will be able to help supplement the deliberation process on H294. So just for a little bit of background about the VLRS, or the Vermont Legislative Research Service, for anyone who is not aware, it was formed in 1998, and it was developed to give students an opportunity to grow their professional research skills, and also it was seen as a way to meet the need of Vermont citizen legislature for when you guys are short on staff, which we don't need to expound on too much, but I'm sure you're well aware of. And we offer various research services. We do things like state policy comparison. There's literature review on specific issues. Sometimes we do surveying, things like that. And it's a small group of students. We have to apply for it. We're selected, and then we go through a rigorous training on proper research methods. We work with reference librarians. We're looking at research databases, formatting, citations, being consistent, stuff like that. And then trying to be aware of different biases that we might find in sources and in different advocacy organizations and stuff like that as well. This specific report, so we put out a notice sent to all of y'all. I'm sure you saw it in your emails last September. And then we take in requests for research. This report was requested by Representative Greer. And
we're gonna put a picture.
Oh, like a little cutout, cardboard cutout. Beautiful.
I thought you were going to say an electric dog fence.
Yeah, so he requested a few different things for the scope and time frame that we had to work with. We decided to focus on prison telecommunications. So I will just give a brief overview of what we'll go over, and then we'll get right into it. For the opening of it, we do a literature review of the issue, the science that kind of explains what they're finding in these populations with the issues of financial burdens, and then also access to family members and communications, where the telecommunications comes in. There's a little bit of an overview of the federal action in the beginning. We don't need to go on that today. And then we will also be going into some other specific state policies. I know you guys talked about Massachusetts a little bit and Connecticut. So we'll do a little review on that if we want. And then there was a few other states that we're looking at as well, being Colorado, Minnesota, and California. And then we'll wrap up with a discussion on IC solutions. And then the prison service provider, private prison service provider sector in general. We did some research on some legal issues there that you might be interested in, and that'll be a discussion at the end. Let's see, any questions? Oh, yeah, we talked about contracts a little bit. You guys went into contracts pretty deeply. So some of that, you might even have more up-to-date information. This report was finished in October. So some of the stuff, we did kind of look at some of the stuff, see if there's any new information, but just know that this information is from that.
Any question, Joe?
No, I didn't have a question.
Yeah, any questions before we get into the literature review part?
I don't think so. It's all yours.
All right.
You have the document up on the screen.
Yeah, so we have the document, and there should be some hard copies if you want to follow along as well. So looking into the science of this, there was kind of two different angles looking at the issue of why.
Can you get it up? Are you trying to get it on the screen? Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay,
I don't know if you guys want to pull it up. Yeah, I'm not.
okay.
Yeah.
Which one are you working on?
They're both the same, actually.
If I was to say.
Oh, sorry. That one just has a cover letter with our contact information because that was not included in like the one that we had. Yeah, the other one was from our website, the VLRS website.
But they're exactly the same.
Yes. Yeah. So the first issue is looking at the financial burden that incarcerated individuals experience and the, okay. Yeah. Looking at the financial burden that the incarcerated populations experience. And this,
Could I interrupt you
Yeah.
for a second? Joe, could you move into either Will's seat or that so this other gentleman can sit up? with
I'm
you?
happy to with the permission of the chair.
Oh, man.
I just thought we'd love to have you at the front of the.
oh, thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
You can do that.
Thank you, I appreciate
Not
that.
getting
Thank
any
you,
info.
Joe.
I get.
Anything for you, Mary?
Thank you, Joe. I'll pay for it later.
What? He does all.
Darn, man.
We've got this.
That's right. Feels
Get it.
complete now.
We always.
Welcome back.
When you hear the person.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
All right. Yeah, no.
We started.
Yeah, so the first part of this was looking at why people find this as an important issue, is the financial burdens that can accumulate for incarcerated individuals from, as you guys have been exploring many different sources. There's court fees, there's these commissions and markups and stuff on the commissary and the telecoms. And then there's post-incarceration issues, not having, like having their vehicles impounded, not having access to legal documents, and all of these things kind of compound together to make issues of make reintegration more difficult. So we were looking at different studies that look at kind of metrics on that, and then tried to include in the literature review studies that did their own sort of literature review as well. So if you're looking at any of these sources, these cover, it's not just like a specific study. They're looking at a bunch of different studies to try to get a bigger picture of what's going on. So we have information on that. And then also looking at just highlighting that this is an issue that's specifically prevalent for lower income individuals, which is when you're looking at the incarcerated population, it's disproportionately people that make less money. So we have some studies on that. And then also we didn't have like direct data on the Vermont incarcerated population, but I was listening back to, I don't know, testimony yesterday or in April or May. I think you guys mentioned that was like indigent. There was like, was it 20% or something like that of Vermont population? So it's like, I think you're looking at a population that is experiencing similar levels of income disparity. So there's this financial end, and then the other end of the issue is looking at the social impact. And this was really interesting. So it's doing the research on this, like doing social science research is really difficult because there's so many different factors. So a lot of these studies are qualitative. They're doing interviews with 60, 100, but usually like in that kind of less than 100. Then let's see. So we have the qualitative interviews, and then the consensus that I found was there's a lot of gaps where information is missing. We need to get more. So like the stuff that you guys are collecting, that you're hearing from the prisons, like on the floor, on the ground, All that information is going to be very valuable for when you're making these decisions. But that being said, the studies that have been taking place are showing very clear evidence of how important this social connection is. And there's a lot of different metrics that we can look at. It's not just recidivism, which is, I think, maybe one of the more interesting ones to look at in terms of like the impact on the state and like these investments, even though they're costing a certain amount to do this, like how do we measure like the impact of having people not come back into the system? That's a pretty big deal. But it showed a lot of really clear evidence that this connection, this like maintaining family contact is really important for reintegration and for just like the overall like well-being of these families, the children that have parents that are incarcerated, and then the incarcerated individuals themselves being able to re-enter society and feel supported and have everything that they need. Let's see, we can get into specifics on some of these studies if you want. I don't know how much time you want to take into that.
Going into some specifics would be good.
Okay, so I think the one that looked more at recidivism, there was this Minnesota study that was looking at the importance of contact for people that were visited.
Is this a part of the document?
This is part of the document. This would be on page 2 of 9.
Research of effects of maintaining contact with family.
Tate, we're hoping by Tuesday, and then Hillary would send it to you, and then you can send it out to the partners. Sorry.
No apologies needed.
What page?
Page 2.
Page 2.
Yeah, research on the effects of maintaining contact with family. So this was a Minnesota DOC, like an in-house study. And it's actually pretty interesting if you wanted to dig into it. It's linked in the sources. And they did a review of other state DOC studies as well. And then they also found that the contact correlated with a 13% reduction in recidivism. That was between 2003 and 2007. Another one that I actually really liked as well, if you're curious to dig into some of these, was, let's see, was it Barek? I think it was Barek et al. That was a 2014, they did a meta-analysis of a bunch of different studies. It was a lot of really interesting context on just, again, looking at these ties long-term, how important they are. But that team also did look at specifically recidivism, and they found, again, that these contacts were important in reducing that. And which I thought was really interesting in that study is they specifically mentioned the importance of phone communication contact. And that had, like the correlation on that was, or the coefficient on that was like twice as much as some of the other ones that they were looking at. But I thought maybe that was really interesting to know that the phone contact had even that much more of an impact.
So I'm going to ask a stupid question, or a question you may not even know the answer to.
Okay.
So this is Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and they measured it as a 13% reduction in recidivism, and then the telephone contact had the greatest impact
Mm-hmm.
on the reduction. Do you know how they calculate or define recidivism?
I do not know the answer to that, actually. Yeah.
I'm curious how that
Yeah.
gets interpreted or defined.
Yeah. I'd have to get a specific one, I'd have to get back to you on
I
that.
just don't know, because the term recidivism is used pretty loosely.
Yeah. Does Vermont have like a specific definition?
Do, but it's being looked at to be
Okay.
changed. So I think, we use the term recidivism quite a bit, but could have different interpretations or definitions in different places. So I was
Good point.
curious.
Yeah.
My understanding of the study was that it was physically being back into the facilities.
I think I recall, I'm looking at my notes, I think I recall maybe a new felony offense after release or something. I think it was pretty
There's a
broad.
new felony within 3 years of leaving supervision, probation, or supervised release, and there's some other small.
That's us.
No, this is,
3 years?
yes.
And before any of you speak, please say your name.
So ours is 3 years too, that there was a new crime. And that 3-year window
Yep.
or violation. Ours is the same way.
Similar at least.
Not
I mean, this isn't, like, I could go deeper, but that's the basic was what it said.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
That's the same as you. The 3-year window. Probably comes from the Council of State Governments. Okay,
Any other questions? Okay, yeah, so I wanted to highlight those 2 points that I found really interesting. And then, oh, I mean, I mentioned the parent-child contact was pretty clear. And we have some numbers on the state or the national distribution, or like how many parents are in prison, are incarcerated. I'm not sure about the Vermont statistics on that, but yeah. Let's see. Oh, one thing that we try to keep these really concise, so some stuff ends up getting cut naturally. One thing that I was looking back for that I didn't see in here that you might be interested in was there was also there was data showing a reduction in poor behavior while incarcerated as well. And it made me think of, I don't remember who was talking about as giving testimony in May, but they were mentioning about the actual culture of the prison. It's not just the incarcerated folks, it's also the people working there. So this has an impact on the entire community there. So I just wanted to bring your attention to that.
so it's a way for the staff of DOC, because they have to keep security in the facility, but it's a way of them to also manage the population. And it's a tool that can be used to help de-escalate some tensions within the facility.
Yeah, I mean, the sense, I guess it wasn't, I don't know, like as a tool, as in like you get time with your kids to improve behavior, or like as a punishment. I didn't see anything like that. But I think more just like them having these connections and just being more emotionally well, they're less likely to act out
While they're incarcerated.
Yeah, and then obviously post-incarceration, integration is better, recidivism is less. They're more likely to, reintegrate healthily. So that's the literature review. Does anyone have any questions on any of those before? And we can go back to these areas as we go through as well, of course. But I think we'll move on to states if you all are ready. Yeah.
Yeah, we just reintroduce.
Yeah, I'm Theodore Sternberg. Speaking of the VLRS last fall. And yeah, for this report, I went just to the 5 other states whose legislature has passed a bill. That's like H294, then just gone through and tried to calculate the cost for them, as well as just the specifics of the different policies that they implemented. The first state that I looked at was California. The data is going back to 2022. Telecommunications in the California bill is defined as phone calls, electronic messages, and video calling. And the California bill also puts it under the California Public Utilities Commission, so that they have the authority to review and maintain standards for the telecommunications within the incarceral system. To fully implement the no-cost telecommunication, it was for the first fiscal year, it's $32 million, which is about, I believe the number is 0.0017% of their budget. And there was, as in all of the states that have implemented this policy, there's going to be an increase in call volume. It rose from 1.4 million minutes in December 2022 to 3.5 million minutes by June 2023. We don't have more recent data than that as of the time the report was issued, but we may be able to go in and get more up-to-date numbers on that.
Troy?
I just want to interject here, and perhaps this was coming from you all. 2 things. One, our costs in Vermont are going to be different than they are in California, clearly. Yesterday, I met with a provider of telecommunications for carceral facilities as a nonprofit. And she talks about that, the initial increase in call volume, and we can talk in more detail about this, that does plateau. there's an initial bump because we're filling needs that haven't been filled before. She also said that they're in a facility in Florida that has about 1,000 people incarcerated, and their contract with that facility is right around 250,000. So we're not going to be talking about in the millions if we explore this in Vermont. We're going to be back in likely less than 500,000. But I mean, that's a big number for Vermont, but yeah, I don't want the sticker shock to
Right.
get in the way of a conversation here.
But I'm also looking at this it's allowed, they have a free 15-minute phone call every 2 weeks. So it's once every 2 weeks, they have a free call.
Oh, that was the policy before this bill was made into law.
Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, that was with the telecommunication provider
Thanks for
Viacom.
confirming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then they took it over. So when they took it over, that's when they developed it as a public utility.
Yeah.
So if, and this would be a question you probably can't answer, but could we develop it as a public utility if we still contracted out the service? And another entity was providing it, but we'd have it reviewed by our PUC.
I
I
would
don't know.
I would have to go back and look at the California policy in terms of if like what provider they moved forward with once it was moved into a public utility, if it was still contracted out. But I believe that, again, this is, I would have to go back and check, but I think that it was still contracted out. Just in labeling it a public utility, it allowed more oversight to maintain quality.
Mm.
Yeah, it's an independent, it's a body that reviews, has the expertise to review utilities.
Yeah.
So it's not in-house, you have another body looking at it. And it's not the administration that has jurisdiction over the Department of Corrections reviewing it. It's a totally different entity that's separate. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
It's just a thought.
I don't want to jump ahead here, but you looked at a number of states and at least the data for California sort of correlates with what Massachusetts found. Program was introduced and then the next year it more than doubled as people got used to it, liked it. It's helpful. Do you have a summary of what the other states you looked at, how those costs up or down or plateaued? Do you have a summary of all the states you looked at, or is that not something you had a chance to do?
I mean, just we looked at 5 states, and the general trend is that there's a bump in like the initial period after the policy was introduced. I'd be more than willing to go back and look and see if it.
I also just wondered if you've done it already.
Yeah.
So if there was evidence of it plateauing and then staying, if you looked for 5 years and
Yeah.
after 3 years it plateaued.
I think they were plateauing.
I-
Yeah.
At a lower level than the initial bump.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
It'd just be interesting to see what 5 states you sampled, what happened. That's all I'm asking. If you haven't, I'm not asking you to do it. You got plenty to do without my questions.
Yeah, I mean, just again, if going through all the different states, there's generally is a bump in the first few months.
Sure.
As Representative Hedrick talked about, it's a service that wasn't there for the incarcerated folks before, so we're filling a gap for something that wasn't there before.
Yeah. It's like reading some of the releases and stuff on that. It sounded like that bump was an indication of needs all of a sudden being met for this population. Hence, like it's this big rise, and then it seems like it's like staying at that more of a plateau of like what that need is for that population.
It'd be interesting to compare that with Vermont to see what percentage of our incarcerated populations having regular contact through phones or their tablets with members. Is it 50%? Is it 70% right now, 80% or 90%? So that if you did transition over to a state operated, state paid for, and it would be a no charge to our offenders, would we see that big bump or not? Because you got to compare it to how many folks currently are you
Yeah, that would be interesting.
feeling Because maybe in Massachusetts or California, of their whole prison population, there might have been this many that were contacting family. And then when it was available at no cost, of course, it's gonna pop up. But if you have this much and this many people are already accessing it, then you make it available at no cost, your bump isn't as high.
Yeah, it's tricky because there's so many different components to the, like, you know, what the state contract, I mean, we'll get into the industry in a little bit, but there really are only like 4 big players. So the contracts are all probably kind of similar. But they're, you know, what they actually offered and then like the population makeup and stuff, there would be a lot of different things to compare that. But yeah, I wonder if that would be interesting.
I don't know. I mean, that's a comparison that would need to happen. We'd need to know here.
Yeah.
What percentage of our incarcerated population is currently able
Mhm.
to stay connected? To kind of indicate, and in California, and this is probably going much further than what you folks, do they have a system where they're just incarcerating folks who are sentenced? Or do they have a system where folks who are not sentenced are housed in a separate facility that's not run by the state? Do you know any of that? Okay.
I'm sure that I have it in like the notes for the more lengthy version of this document that I could find and send over to you, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
I'm just curious because here in Vermont, we commingle
Mhm.
those populations. So they're all in our state facility, where in other states, just the sentenced folks. And those who are waiting for trial or either in a county system, some other system that's not affiliated with the state. And I just don't know if there's a difference in use between folks who haven't been sentenced versus those folks who have been sentenced, or if it's about the same. That's all.
Now, just moving on to Connecticut, which is actually the first state to introduce a bill like this. There was they set aside for 2025 and 2026, they set aside 9.5. This may be reviewed for you guys, but just going back into some of the information, they set aside $9.5 million for free telecommunications, and then breaking that down, and also for their bill, it's telecommunications is defined as phone calls and electronic messaging. They don't have video call defined under the telecommunications. It was $6 million to cover phone calls and $3.5 million for electronic messaging, which was about $4.75 million for the state to subsidize telecommunications annually, which is like right within the projection that they had for the bill in 2021, 5 years later. And if you also look at the frequency of call, it's less steep of a bump than in Massachusetts or in California, even though there was an initial increase. So yeah, definitely worth looking into how that demographic was different than California or Massachusetts in terms of people being able to stay in contact before the policy was implemented.
Do you know how many are they limited in terms of how many calls or electronic messaging like per week or anything? Is there a limit, or are they limited as well as to who they can contact? There's a contact list only.
As far as I know, for Connecticut and all the states except for Minnesota, there's not a call or messaging limit. Though I know in Massachusetts there is one they're considering as of when I was looking into this report back in October, but I would have to see how that's moved. Yeah, moving on to Colorado, which has actually only begun to cover 100% of incarcerated telecommunications as of this year. So the information that we have this fiscal year is maybe, we don't have as much information as we do for other states in terms of full coverage for telecommunications, but the estimate and the money allotted for the 2026 fiscal year was $5.2 million, which is about 0.04% of the state budget. So slightly more than in California and Connecticut, but again, that may be due to a difference in, that's another thing that we were talking about before coming in here is that getting just population data for the other states could be useful for your guys's deliberation, just in terms of comparing the populations compared to Vermont.
Population folks are incarcerated.
Because that's information that we didn't gather for this report, but we could go ahead and find. Moving on to Massachusetts, November 2023, and then begun in 2024. There was for telecommunications, they define it in the same way that California does, where it's phone calls, video calling, and e-messaging services. There was, again, like the other states that we've reviewed, there's no set cap on the time incarcerated individuals may use the phones. So in the fiscal year 2024, there was $20 million allocated to pay for the program, which was about 0.056% of the fiscal year budget. And then there was an increase in demand, as we've already talked about. So the governor requested more money for the 2025 program, but was only allocated $10 million. And I know that there was some conversations over whether that would be enough to fund the program moving forward. But again, I would have to go back into more recent information to see what's happened in terms of that moving forward. Yeah, and then moving to the final state that we looked at, Minnesota.
Sean?
So just go back there quick. It's interesting. So they set up a state trust to pay for it, meaning they put money aside that would pay for that into perpetuity type of thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
So you're binding future legislatures.
And that's not something we usually do as much.
It's tough to bind.
Yeah,
future
okay.
legislature.
Right. Just interesting. It was just that was,
I mean, it could be a special fund.
yeah. I just, beautiful to that.
And I apologize. I was distracted early on. Did you talk about in these states, who's picking up the tab for the hardware?
For the hardware?
For the phones, the tablets, who's buying these for the people who are getting the free service?
It's always the provider. Yeah. So a lot of I think you could talk to it. A lot of them are still using the providers like Viapath,
Okay.
Global Tel, Securus, and then
Okay,
paper.
that's part of the contract.
Yeah, contract.
It's just the state's paying for the
Yeah, I'm not-
contract instead of the user.
That's why I'm saying 8 cents a minute.
Did any of the states like completely dump any of their providers? Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, I think in all the states that I looked at, they renegotiated the contract with the provider and then, yeah, just continued to use software that was provided under that contract. And then, yeah, finally, moving to Minnesota, signed into law in 2023. And that contract was an average of $434 per incarcerated individual within the state, which totaled about $3.6 million for the 2024 fiscal year. And then that was because of an increase in call volume, which we didn't have data for their call volume. It was the listed reason they implemented a 15-minute wait period before making other calls so that other people could use the phone, because there was some, I think, worries that people were hogging the phone so that other people can.
These are the only states that have implemented this kind of policy. correct?
Yeah, New York actually implemented, late last year, they also implemented, a similar policy through, the governor's executive order.
Oh, yeah, it was an executive, that's why we didn't
Yeah.
include that one.
Right.
Mhm.
Are there other states online to be coming forward with legislation like this?
I think there are. We'd have to look at that. We just include, we wanted to just get the ones that are more established. So you guys can, if you wanted to use them as models or just as
Yeah, no,
reference.
that's,
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if you were aware of any.
Again, I'm Sky Whalen. So let's shift over to an overview of the contract. I know you guys, again, talked about it a little bit. So maybe we can get a little bit more into the weeds. But essentially, so we have some of the prices here. I think that some of that might have changed just because of the access that we have to the contract. But from research we did, the in-state calls are around 28 cents, or sorry, about 3 cents per minute. Interstate calls were about $6 per minute. International calls were about $6, 6 cents a minute, rather, sorry. And remote video visitation costs about 16 cents per minute. And then streaming on the tablet costs about 5 cents. Now within this, we have like basically these large corporations. But specifically what Vermont has is this contract with IC Solutions. And IC Solutions is a direct subsidiary of the Keefe Group, which is then a subsidiary of TKC Holdings. So this company has a lot of different telecommunication companies and contracts within that. And what we found is that we have a lot of incarcerated people having complaints about this company's practices. And so there were several suits. There were, I would say, about over 100 complaints towards the company. However, because of the resources that incarcerated people have, a lot of those stayed complaints and weren't really able to go any further. However, ones that were, we have like Richard versus Keefe Commissary Group, and this is where the plaintiffs alleged that the subsidiaries engaged in unfair and deceptive practices, mostly with the release debit cards. And so what the release debit cards are is when someone is released from incarceration and they still have money in their account, the way that the company gets that money back to them is like these quote unquote release debit cards. And the problem that they were having with those is that that money wasn't being given back to them in an appropriate time period or at all. And so what happened with that case was they settled, and there are like a bunch of other examples of this happening. See what else. Yeah, again, they settled for a little under $1 million. Oh, and I know we're not exactly talking about the commissary, but within TKC subsidiaries, there's also been tensions. Like, for example, Oklahoma canceled its food services contract with the Trinity Group, which is a subsidiary, due to low quality and lack of nutritional deficiencies. And additionally, in 2024, incarcerated individuals in Wisconsin were experiencing things like glitches and call drops. However, they weren't given the money back from these companies that they were supposed to be getting. Now, yeah, so overall, just the relationship that these facilities have with specifically TKC Solutions as like this broader subsidiary has been pretty shaky, and incarcerated people themselves are saying that these are unfair and deceptive practices. Yeah, are there any questions on that? Great.
The conclusion's great.
a couple of things I can bring up that I think one of the things I didn't mention, that I think is important for context, looking at the financial struggles, was we're looking a little bit at the commissary stuff, and looking at, you guys were talking about a little bit some of the markup, but I think one of the issues with this relates also back to wages as well. Was it's not that this stuff is like excessively more expensive, but it's also that their purchasing power parity is so much lower because they're only making 25 to $1 or whatever it is. So that's I think an important thing to just remember when you're looking at like, oh, what are they buying? These costs don't. When you're looking at that issue, it's just important to remember that purchasing power parity issue.
I did some math last night.
Uh-oh.
It's some math.
Trouble.
Did some math at 65 cents an hour, which is what was stated as the average wage that our incarcerated Vermonters are making. Given that 65 cents an hour, a 15
We get paid, right?
a 15-minute phone call costs about 40 minutes of labor. A 30-minute video call costs more than 7 hours of labor. Even sending 10 messages a week costs nearly 4 hours of labor. So if an incarcerated Vermonter tries to maintain even a modest connection with their kids, let's say, 3 short phone calls, 1 video call, and then a few messages, they're working more than 13 hours a week just to stay connected to their family. 13 hours a week of labor for them.
If they can get the job.
Right. And that's everything, right? That's 13 hours labor just to stay connection. That's less money than that they have to go to the commissary to pay a rec staff member and maybe get a new basketball or whatever, right? That to me is kind of, we're just draining them from all angles, and it doesn't feel good to me.
And if I may add, what we're seeing right now is, I'm sure you all know, is an increase of ICE detainees within, like specifically, there's like CRCF, which is the Chittenden County Regional Facility. And a lot of those people don't speak English. And because they aren't able to get those jobs, they aren't able to then pay for any of those phone calls. And so they're completely isolated, essentially. Yeah, just something to remember.
I then did the comparison on my current salary and what it costs me to stay in touch with my kids. I'm not going to get into that right now. It's pretty much nothing for my unlimited usage of Verizon plan based on my salary.
Yeah, I think I'll add just kind of to tie everything up in a nice little bow. Doing the kind of the bigger scope, background context, looking at the research and like these issues on the granular level and a lot of it more on this broader level. And then also like looking at the work you guys are doing, this piece kind of, it feels like it's a part of a larger picture, like what you guys are doing with like the supervisory fees and looking at reentry. These are all components that kind of build towards these more intangible return on investment that is going to honestly make your job maybe a little harder. I mean, that's why, I don't. Anyway, yes. So this idea of, this one component being a piece of this bigger picture that is looking at how do we rehabilitate and reintegrate people and create a community that is healthy and sustainable. So that's kind of the bigger picture context I was getting doing this research and then doing looking at the testimony that you guys have already taken. So I just wanted to offer that for you guys to consider.
It's wonderful. You've been very thoughtful with your deliberation.
Thank you.
Yeah. thank you for all the
Any,
work.
closing questions, comments?
So when can we have your next chapter of information?
Well, we did 2 other studies. If y'all are interested, the VLRS website is linked on that document that you have. You can just click on it from there, or just Google UVM VLRS.
What were the 2 other?
Sorry, what?
The 2 other investigations.
We did data privacy regulation, and then we were looking at weighing out investing in food banks versus SNAP benefits.
So what class or what grades are you, should say grades, But what year?
What year?
Yeah, for the record, we're all graduating.
This year?
This was Sky, I think, next semester, right? Yeah.
Now, was this part of a class
Mhm.
project you were doing?
So the class itself is the legislative research. So we go in and we have our professors, teach us how to do unbiased, adequate research. And then we go and produce those reports and respond to requests from you all.
Mhm.
Do you need anything for like a picture of all of us together that you can
I would love
talk
that.
with us? Kate, would you be able to take a picture and we can send it to them? So it's part of their, in
Take a picture.
Putting it right on my wall.
Catherine,
your,
yeah.
Alice, get
Yeah.
on there.
No, I don't want to be.
Alice, you have to, you're the chair, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, did I just?
In there too.
Tell you what, you all get down there and I'll take the picture.
It takes-
Was there only enough room for one Kevin?
Come on, guys. Gotta be the only one.
back.
Down we go. Nice job, gentlemen.
We'll stand
I
behind you.
just, this is.
Yeah.
We'll use a still from the YouTube feed.
Yeah.
Short guys up front.
Chairs, chair.
Oh my gosh.
But it's an honor. It's-
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're tall.
Yeah.
You gotta roll up.
Oh, sorry. Oh, backwards. Right about that.
It's not mine, no matter.
Oh,
Brian might be Joe.
All right, you guys ready?
We're ready.
1, 2, 3. All right.
We should do another one without my rabbit ears.
Yeah. Maybe the rabbit ears there.
Good
Thank you so much
job.
for your
Great.
Graduate in May. Yeah.
This is the first time to test.
First time testifying, yes.
That's wonderful. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
After that grilling, Mary, they'll never come here.
And I'm interning, yes. For who? Representative Cole.
Oh, that's why.
Right.
Yeah, you see me around. Usually rocking the lavender. Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you
you'll
guys.
get
You guys-
in touch with what political science is all about.
Oh, yeah. I've already learned.
It's
I
not.
learned so much.
I think you were behind me in the lunch line one
I
day.
was one day, yes.
So, yeah, because.
So do you have your information to send it to us?
Thank you all.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much.
For doing the research.
Very well.
Intrigued by the Public Utilities Commission.
Bright future, if this is what our future is, we've got a bright.
Stay in Vermont.
I would just encourage you guys, if you haven't, to like go down to CRCF and actually talk to the incarcerated populations.
Folks have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yup. We've
Yeah,
got
sure,
some time
yeah.
Did you interview anybody about this, about Telecom?
I teach debate there.
Oh, okay.
So I
Don, you said.
Actually,
you spent some
Oh, right.
time.
We may end
No,
up
but I-
seeing you
But not
in not in the facility, but working.
maybe.
Back when it was 4Cs, so.
Yeah, one of the
Hey. Spent a couple rough weekends there.
Did you know, were you part of the Southern Lady Debate Club that won their competition? Was that Springfield that won the debate?
Yes.
Yes.
Say, yeah, Springfield, yeah.
They won some national sort of thing.
Yeah, they went down to Pennsylvania or something.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck with the graduation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's around the corner, believe it or
Go out
not.
there and try to save the world. We need it, all right?
We're working on it.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Alice. I know you don't like pictures, but I thought that might
That'd
be
be good
nice.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good for them. We've got only two of you. Where's Joe go? Oh, he's
He's with
down with Bernie. I got two of you. Is there anything that you folks, Mary and Kevin, need about? We need to schedule a DOC and BGS to come in and talk about their general fund budget. Now, I went through quickly, couldn't find the full budget, but I went through the document that was sent to us. There is some things I just want to highlight for folks. There is a Department of Corrections data contract. I don't know what it's for. 300,000 reverts. It's like a reallocation. Kind of reverts back to the general fund.
What was the total?
It's on, if you go to the document that they have, it's on page 10. Yes, DOC data contract, it's reversions, and there's 300,000. I don't know if there's any cost at all in the 1115 waiver for DOC, but there is, there's no money that I saw, but just some language for the 1115 waiver. I don't know if that has any impact on DOC. And then, of course, there's the 200,000 for 7 permanent positions in probation and parole, and those are for the pretrial supervision. So that's what's there for changes in DOC. I didn't see anything for BGS. So I don't know where you two are or where Connor and Brian and Joe, if there's anything you need from us or direction in terms of what you folks have been. You met yesterday. Is there anything that came to the top that there's confusion or you need clarity or anything?
Well, it's always dangerous, but I'm assuming that wherever there's a change in the BAA for our committee, that we're gonna have specific testimony to those changes.
Well, I'm talking about the appropriations bill,
Okay.
the general
Sorry, that's
fund.
on a different wavelength.
Yeah, you 5. There was Connor and Mary.
Right.
And you and Joe and Brian, kind of working on the general fund.
Okay.
Is there anything that's coming up that you 5 were talking about yesterday that you want more clarity from us, or? Because I'd like you to, we need to start bringing in DOC and BGS to start, because we have to make our recommendations
Right, within 2 weeks.
by the 20th of February. So that leaves part of next week and the following. So I don't think there's going to be much for changes. It's just, I think, getting a grasp of the full budget of BGS and what they do, general fund and DOC. And I know Connor broke things down.
We added some questions to that to get a little deeper dive into, what their budgets or what they're asking for.
So those are questions that you should relate to. I'd like to have a committee discussion with this so you can share with us what questions we all need to ask when they come before us.
Right, and we had a number of those written down. We expanded upon that, but I'd like to have the 5 of us here to be able to do. I left my document in my folder.
So when do you think you would be ready to spend time with us as a committee to indicate, would you be done by Wednesday?
I was just gonna say probably midweek of this coming week.
It's the afternoon or something. Well, strategically, I think it's helpful to provide those questions to the people who are gonna come in and testify.
But that's what, you're gonna
Okay,
share those questions with us, so we as a committee, when they come in and testify, can ask.
I'm
We know
saying
what-
in advance of them coming in. Yeah, right.
But see, you want, one of the things is in this process, you want to be able to ask any of these groups, no matter who it would be, face to face, looking you in the eye, just asking the question, what is this? And if we get this run around and walk around of not getting any information, they probably technically don't know themselves. And we're not in a gotcha moment. We just really want to know that they're running their agency or their departments to the fullest that they should be, and very conscious of the financial magnitude that goes along with it, as well as the responsibilities of what we're supposed to be delivering.
And to Mary's point, because in theory, I like the idea of giving people stuff, but then
But then
you can
they-
prepare in
they
advance
fly-
that
they-
specific thing and you go, wow, that's a great answer. And then it doesn't trigger us to ask another question. So it kind of stinks, but like that to Mary's
But
point.
not only that, a lot of times you get it on, not trying to pinpoint one department or another, but you'll get a lot of fluff. And you don't even actually know if they're actually doing what they're telling you. So it's kind of to be able to, because I think the best testimony you get is when someone can sit down with you face to face, look you in the eye, and tell you what they're actually doing. Because you'll both get a good feeling from it if they're being honest with what they're doing.
Mhm.
So I'm
I'll
just
follow your lead.
Some of us have been around for a while.
long.
You can read through the testimony. Get used to it. You start learning it. Takes time, but you start learning it.
Well, trust me, I've had to read the room for as many years.
So I just wanted to check in, see if there's any flags, but we're really, I wrote down this morning, if I can find it, which was on the schedule. No, did I put that away?
Uh-oh.
No, I put it on the schedule.
I gotta run down and say goodbye to these guys.
Yeah, you gotta.
I'll be right back.
I'm sorry they
You
didn't,
don't have to worry
sorry that you didn't
Yeah.
bring them here to see.
I know, it was not my, it wasn't my show. I was along for the ride.
Something with
I'll be
that.
right back.
Bye.
It did it. in my Agenda. And I cannot find it.
Uh-oh.
Papers disappear real fast sometimes.
I mean, I take one once in a while. I'll-
Yeah, I stuck it in here. Why? Stuck it in here. So I wrote down sort of the bills. I'm concerned our time is really slipping away here. Because the 27th of February is the last day before a town meeting break. And when we come back the week after town meeting is crossover for the bills we've been working. So I don't want to get in a jam that week. That we come back after town meeting to work on all these bills, because we've got to work on the capital. So what we've been working on is we need to deal with the pretrial because Judiciary Committee's waiting for it. Driver's license. Because Senate Transportation is waiting for that language. I saw Richie says we're waiting for you to get the language to us. That's gonna take a couple of weeks to do. We've been working on the parole board.
Mhm.
That's gonna take a little bit more work. That's a good more week to do, at least. We've got this telecom commissary. I don't know where we are on this. Supervisory fees, you talked to Trevor.
What do you say?
He said, as long as we don't impact the current
So.
budget,
So if we put it next year, then it's.
yeah, he doesn't have a problem with that.
Then we'll have
If
an
if DLC wants that.
that's for them to figure out, but I will have an 11:00.
Privately, they're okay with it. I would say privately, but I don't know. I don't know.
But if we change the date to next year, we'll have an 11:00 vote. Wait,
So would people be comfortable scheduling the supervisory fee 6:35 for
Mhm.
next week
I
with a
would.
possible vote?
Yes.
Okay, so we can do that. And then I don't know where we are on the gender piece.
I would like to hear from, because we haven't heard from DOC or WellPath on
Right.
what their current practice and protocols are in and around assignment of housing and medical care. I'd like to hear that.
The first part, something about housing.
how the housing.
Current protocols that DOC has for how they decide where they're gonna house folks who identify as transgender.
Oh.
I also want to hear from WellPath about, because the bill asks for very specific medical care and people who can provide that medical care. And I don't know where WellPath is on that right now.
So we can schedule that, but that may not be next week. And maybe the following week. And then we have to get the general fund recommendations to them. The other thing that I want to keep in mind for folks when we do the markup on the capital bill for the, and we haven't received testimony yet on this from the Agency of Agriculture. for the water quality section, the clean water section. There is for FY 27, 1.5 million for the water quality grants. In the appropriations bill, there's also 11.8, almost 11.9 million going to the same grants. So we need to balance that for that. Okay,
And we don't know current allotment or current status of projects.
correct, yeah. And I went through a little bit of the lists that we got yesterday that we kept asking for municipal pollution grants. And for the clean water and drinking water. Well, we got the links they had. Was the drinking water for federal fiscal year 25, which expires September 30th, 25.
Yeah.
They just gave the projects and the loan amount, but it doesn't tell you where, in the scheme of things, the project is in terms of construction.
Feel kind of in the same place we were.
Yeah, they're not keeping.
Over there, Rick.
And then for the municipal they didn't give us anything but the clean water revolving loan fund. And then for the municipal pollution, they gave 2026 priority and planning list. So in the blue is continuing projects. You don't know where in the project, where they are. Are they going out to construction? Are they final design? And then they've got projects yet to be funded is in the gold, but there's no indication in terms of when the project, are they in design? Or when the project is going for a bond vote in the community? Because it doesn't tell you when those dollars are going to be available. They only tell you what the dollar is, but they don't, what the dollar amount is, but they don't tell you when it will be, when they're going to construction. It then tells you when you need the money.
Sounds like they're not revolving again. Revolving loan funds are not revolving.
So I'm gonna have a conversation with DEC and see if we can get, I don't know if the electronic system changed, that we don't get that information. We used to get that information automatically.
Mhm.
Because you could tell if a town had a project, and if they were going to vote for a bond vote in November of this year, you knew that they would be out to construction by the spring in FY 27. So you knew they needed money. If they go out to bond vote in March of 27, they may not need the money until FY 28. So it helps with the cash flow when you're doing markup on the capital. But we're not getting that information. It's really frustrating because that's how we used to make the decision in terms of what those amounts were. So I'm going to have a conversation with DC, see if we can get deeper information. Yeah. So that's my work for the week.
Okay,
Sure.
everyone stay warm this
Yeah.
weekend. It's supposed to be a tough.
Anything else? I'll work with Tate because I think we got more scheduling to do, right?
We do.
For the whole week, okay. So I'm done. Everybody else done? Weekend, folks.